All right, YouTube, welcome to the podcast. It's Kennard, Vernon Stewart once again. We're talking about Auburn football. Man, still getting through this quarantine, y'all. They're starting to open some stuff up in Georgia and other states. Tennessee, I think, among some of the southern states that are starting to kind of open some things back up. But today we're going to talk about Auburn versus Alabama and some of the, I'd say, ending consequences of this particular game and how important it is to the SEC and to college football and to the state of Alabama. Stay tuned. All right, so during Nick Saban's tenure as the coach for Alabama since 2007, actually lost to Auburn his first year. I think that score was like 17-10. That was during the last portion of the sixth straight that Auburn had back in the early to mid 2000s, where it seemed like Auburn was going to basically take this rivalry over until the hire of Nick Saban. Over the years, Nick Saban has had a winning record against Auburn. As a matter of fact, in Tuscaloosa, literally owns Auburn in Tuscaloosa. The only win for Auburn in Tuscaloosa during Nick Saban's tenure was the comeback back in 2010, where it seemed like Nick Saban was well on his way to taking the life out of the Auburn fan base, the life out of the Auburn Tigers, as Auburn comes into that game undefeated, number 2 or number 1 in the country at that time, depending on what poll you're looking at. Looked like Alabama was well on their way to upstaging Auburn and closing the door on any type of national championship hopes. I think Auburn still goes to the SEC championship game, losing that football game, but it still would have taken a lot of the luster off of a very magical season, full of a lot of, just improbable ways to win football games. Auburn kind of stabilized it down the stretch to where things got a little bit normal. But when you think about the win over Clemson, close wins over Mississippi State and Kentucky, very entertaining season. Alabama had a chance to close the door in that one. Didn't do it. But that was the only win that Auburn had in Tuscaloosa during his tenure. Pretty much, like I said before, Alabama owned them. But here's the problem with Nick Saban when you talk about his situation with Auburn is when they have to come down to Auburn. I bet you Nick Saban loses sleep before he has to come down to Auburn, because no matter how successful their seasons are, when they come down to Auburn, all bets are off. I'm talking about everything that could possibly go in the favor of the Auburn Tigers usually does, especially in later years of this rivalry. So you think about Nick Saban, when he comes down to Auburn, he's 3-4. A lot of folks probably don't know that, but he does not have a winning record when he has to bring the Crimson Tide to Auburn. Now, the game that I thought Auburn should have won in Tuscaloosa was back in 2014, when Nick Marshall pretty much lit Alabama up for 44 points. But on the flip side, Alabama lights Auburn up for 55 points in like a basketball game. Alabama beats Auburn 55-44. So this game is already riddled when it comes to playing down in Auburn. Already riddled with seeming like a celestial type deal. It seems like it's just in the stars for Auburn to find a way to beat Alabama when they come to Jordan-Hare Stadium. I think about the game in 2013. For one, the ending of that particular football game did not justify how well Auburn played to stay in the game. Auburn down 20-7 midway through the second quarter. It appeared that Alabama would take off with that game, but Auburn started to find a rhythm. They started to make some big plays. Carl Lawson even made a big fourth down play against Alabama because Nick Saban didn't trust his kicker. So they go for it late in the football game. You think, hey, you got you got TJ Yeldon, you can get 1 yard, but Carl Lawson made the play of the game when he stopped TJ Yeldon in the backfield Now Auburn has a chance to tie the football game up. Then you have the 1 second left. Nick Saban apparently was not comfortable with that game going into overtime. So he wanted to go ahead and stop the madness because there was just too much madness going on. And Auburn gaining the momentum in an epic level late in that football game, he decides to challenge the 1 second that TJ Yeldon steps out of bounds. And it turns out that they granted Alabama 1 second. Alabama kicks the field goal. Davis catches the football. He was hiding out in the near the goalpost. Catches the football, runs it all the way back. Nothing but fat guys on the football field. Wasn't going to catch him. Auburn wins epically in the Iron Bowl in 2013. Fast forward to 2017. I thought a very well played game by Auburn. Played very well on defense. Took advantage of some turnovers, some great play calling. Kerryon Johnson had an excellent game. Goes on to kind of beat up on Alabama, 26-14. Auburn, the next week, goes to the SEC championship, loses to Georgia, and ironically, while Alabama gets to sit at the house for 2 weeks, they're granted the 4th spot in the college football playoff, actually playing against Georgia and winning the national championship in that game. 2019. All of the stuff continues. You talk about a first half that was just filled with entertaining plays. Now, it looked like things were going to be pretty normal. You got a 7-3 ending of the first quarter. Okay, everything is somewhat normal. But now everything is starting to break loose as the second half starts. Alabama gets a kickoff return for a touchdown, continuing to score. Auburn continued to match scores with them. Late in that particular game, arguably one of the most controversial plays of that game was Auburn was trying to make, Auburn was only down 31-24, but they saw an opportunity to late, got a great field goal kicker, saw opportunity late to where they could possibly kind of pierce into the score a little bit. So Boobie Whitlow makes a really nice run for the Auburn Tigers for a first down that puts Auburn in somewhat field goal territory. Down at the 34-yard line, and here's the 1 second deal again. The 1 second deal to where it was a first down. He was down with a minute left. So, and it showed a second left. It showed 1 second on the clock as Boobie Whitlow goes down. It's a first down. So Auburn has the opportunity to run another play. But what really helped Auburn out in their ability to run the play by rule, the next play after replay starts at the ref's whistle, giving Auburn a chance to line up and actually get the field goal off and pierce into the lead 31-27. And Nick Saban was livid because he felt like Auburn should not have been able to get the snap off. And in a roundabout way, he could have been right. Now, I guarantee you, A, if Auburn would have missed the field goal, B, he wouldn't have been mad. B, if he had a sizable lead, definitely wouldn't have been as mad. But this was a momentum building field goal. This gave Auburn hope as they cut into it. Was a one score game at that point. It was a one score game anyway, but the next score gives Auburn the lead. So Nick Saban's livid, and this prompted a rule change to where if there's only 1 second remaining in the half, you advance the first down, you can't do anything as far as making another play. Okay. Now, the rule now says that it has to be 3 seconds remaining on the clock. How often will this happen? Probably won't happen often, but it happened in a very controversial way. And yes, Auburn still could have won the football game without this particular field goal, but it gave Auburn a ton of momentum going into the second half. And we know how the second half went, holding Alabama to 15 points, actually 14 points in the second half, on their way to a 48-45 win. A very entertaining game. But how do y'all feel about this rule change? Do you think it's unfair? Do you think Nick Saban is, just ranting and raving and crying again, and they're going to jump up and down, and the NCAA gives him his way? Or is the rule actually fair? Should Auburn have been given that 1 second? I thought it was kind of questionable. I'm kind of glad it happened, because Auburn needed the field goal, needed to get some momentum back going after all the scoring that Alabama was doing in the second quarter. But what do you think? Do you really, really think this is an unfair rule? Is it just entertaining that it just so happened to be, Alabama versus Auburn, and yet another controversial play makes a difference in the football game? You let me know in the comment section what you think about this particular rule. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast, talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.